I'm an Alabama native. It's great to come back here. I'm out on the West Coast now. I'd like to give a big thanks to Faye Medlock and to Brian White and to everybody else involved in putting this together here today. It's a great thing to do together to stand up for freedom. In Alabama, we have a history of being willing to stand up for our rights. In fact, it's right there in the state motto, we dare defend our rights. That's what Alabama's about. Alabama is about being brave enough to stand up for the freedom that all of us deserve as citizens. Anybody who tells me when I get out on the West Coast, wait a minute, you're fighting for cannabis freedom, where you want to get medical marijuana in Alabama? That's going to be the last state. That's going to be the 50th one to go. And I tell them, no, you don't know the people of Alabama like I do if you think they'll settle for less than the best. I mean, look how they play football. I know that Alabama is going to do the right thing when it comes to cannabis, and there's just one barrier standing between us and our goal right now, and that is the Alabama legislature. You see, in this state, we don't have a citizen initiative process. We can't do like they've done in other states where a bunch of people sign a petition, they get a measure on the ballot, and then the citizenry gets to vote it up and down. For some reason, the Alabama legislature seems a little bit wary of letting you folks do that. So you know what we got to do? We got to get them to vote the right way. We got to get the people who are supposed to be representing us in the legislature to actually represent us. We know that about 70% of the citizens of Alabama support medical marijuana. So if we're going to have representatives representing us, then let's have them represent us and vote for the medical marijuana that the people of this state want.
Amen.
There's a reason that medical marijuana works as well as it does on a variety of conditions, and that reason is something called the endocannabinoid system. That means that each of us has cannabinoid receptors, cannabis receptors all over our bodies. We have the most of those in our brains. That's the reason cannabis has those interesting effects. And as we know, marijuana is one of the only drugs that some people use it just for the side effects. But in the meantime, it does lots of other healing and very good things. In fact, it's one of the best anti-inflammatories we know. And it's one of the best anti-tumoral agents. It actually makes tumors shrink. And anybody who tells you that cannabis kills brain cells is wrong, because cannabis grows new brain cells. Cannabis protects the ones that you have. Cannabis is so good at protecting your brain that if you drink, you need to smoke weed first. If you smoke marijuana before you use alcohol, it helps protect your brain from the damaging effects of the alcohol. That's just how good a medicine this is. Now, this endocannabinoid system that I mentioned is a remarkable thing. We have this system in our bodies which can actually benefit directly from these molecules in the cannabis plant. The reason it can do this is because we have co-evolved with cannabis. Cannabis is our partner in human evolution, and it has been for a long time, for at least 10,000 years that we know about. Archaeologists have discovered in 10,000-year-old tombs, they've discovered cannabis seeds and cannabis flowers. This plant has been a part of human history for a long, long time, and it co-evolves with us. This plant responds to our needs. That's the reason that cannabis works on all the conditions that it does. And that's the reason it is so medically effective in such a wide variety of ways. People who are uneducated about the medicinal properties of cannabis call it snake oil because it does so many different things. Well, when they try to tell you that, you can remind them that there are cannabinoid receptors all over the body, not just in the brain, the ones I've already mentioned, but you've got a lot of them in your liver. You've got a lot of them in your digestive system, and they are distributed throughout your body. That's one reason cannabis is so effective at treating the pain. Now, it's important as we move forward and as we start to have a more advanced medical marijuana law and a more compassionate society here in Alabama to remember the reason Big Pharma is so scared of cannabis. Think about it. Here's a medicine that you don't have to pay them for, and in fact, you can grow your own in your backyard. You can grow your own in the closet. You can be self-sufficient. You can take charge of your health. You can be proactive. You can say no to the ineffective pharmaceutical poisons that are best things that Big Pharma can offer you in America today. And you can treat yourself with a non-toxic, effective herbal medication. Of course, that scares Big Pharma to death. You know what? You're bad for profits if you choose to be a medical marijuana patient, but you're good for yourself. You're good for your family. There's a difference in your life between when you're taking heavy narcotics and when you're taking cannabis. Believe me, I would know. When you are taking cannabis for your pain instead of heavy narcotics, you are more present in your life, you are more aware, you're not zombied out, and at the same time, you're not wrecking your liver and your digestive system with opiates. There's a reason that cannabis is more healthy for you, and that's because it doesn't depress your central nervous system like opiates. That's the reason nobody ever died from a marijuana overdose. It's physically impossible. The only way you're going to get killed by marijuana is if somebody drops a bale of it on you. Now, I have a personal story, not that it's important, but just because it illustrates what I'm talking about. Back in 2009, I developed a hole in my intestines, and I had to have emergency surgery for that. They said I had diverticulitis, which had developed into an intestinal breakage, and they had to cut a section out. Well, after that operation, of course, you're going to be in a lot of pain when they open you from here to here, and they cut part of your guts out and then tie them back together. That hurts. All they had to offer me were narcotics for the pain that came from that. And I decided that rather than a life of opiate addiction, that there must be a better way, a way to be more present and a way to be more aware and happier in your life, and something that didn't wreck your liver. Because I'm also facing diverticulitis, or I'm also facing hepatitis, which means that my liver is inflamed. And it means that any narcotics are going to have a negative effect on my liver because my liver has an impaired ability to process poisons. And let's call a spade a spade. What pharmaceuticals are, in large part, is poisons. That's the reason they kill you when you take a handful. Now, cannabis, you can't overdose and hurt yourself that way on it. You're going to go to sleep if you eat a bunch of it. You're going to get hungry if you smoke a bunch of it. There's no way to hurt yourself or kill yourself with it, though. When you wake up, you're going to be fine. That is a rule that applies across the board. I don't care how much cannabis you've taken. Nobody has ever died from marijuana. Nobody ever will. Marijuana doesn't depress the part of your brain that controls breathing. That's the reason opiates will kill you if you take enough of them. And that's the reason cannabis will not. That's an important distinction, and you shouldn't do it. You should stick with cannabis if you're going to be treating serious pain over a long term. The latest studies have even shown that opiates become more and more ineffective the longer they're used. And of course, you have to up your dose more and more. And when you up your dose, you're getting closer and closer to that dangerous point where you're eventually going to overdose. That's not something that any of us want to face. We don't want to wind up like Prince did. I mean, he was used to one type of opiates and then he switched to another. He took the fentanyl. He took just a little bit more fentanyl than he should have, and Prince is not with us anymore. We don't need to keep losing people that way. We have a better way to treat pain. We have a better way to treat inflammation. We have a better way to treat seizures. We have a better way to treat our kids. When we have kids in Alabama with seizure disorders, there are better ways than the heavy pharmaceuticals that are all Big Pharma can offer. More and more parents in Alabama have started to realize this, and that's the reason we've had these tiny little baby steps that Faye talked about. That's the reason we had Carly's Law. That's the reason we had Lenny's Law. Well, as she said, and as all of us agree here today, we're not going to stop until they give us the whole plant. We're not going to stop until they give us the right to grow our own and to become self-sufficient. We're not going to stop until the people of Alabama have the most effective medicines available, ones that don't eventually kill them, ones that don't cause overdoses, ones that don't destroy your liver and your internal organs. It's important to remember we're not asking for anything outlandish or unreasonable. Think about it. What we want is effective medicine for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our family members, for our children. Is it too much to ask for non-poisonous medication that doesn't hurt us? I don't think so. If you agree with me, one of the best things you can do is to educate yourself, first of all, learn all you can about this plant and about its long history with the human race. And once you've educated yourself, start to educate others. There is a wall of silence in Alabama and in every area that lives under a prohibitionist culture. That wall of silence tells us that if we talk to our friends and neighbors about what we know about this wonderful plant, that we'll somehow be stepping out of bounds and that we'll somehow be putting ourselves in danger. Well, let me tell you, that is no way to live. In a free society, people are able to speak their truths. And if you can't tell the truth about what you've educated yourself about, then that's a sad state of affairs. Let's not live that way. We still have free speech for now in this country. Let's use it. Let's tell the people that matter to us what we know about this plant. Let's go beyond that. Let's tell the guys that make these laws over here in these buildings what we know about this plant. Let's ask these guys if maybe they could possibly find the time to actually represent us rather than representing the corporations. What we have right now is a legislature that is only listening to one side of this debate, or else they would have already passed a medical marijuana law. The side that they're listening to, and I don't think is a coincidence in any way, is the side with the money. They're listening to the corporations. They're listening to big pharma. They're listening to big corrections. They're listening to the people who have a vested interest in keeping the drug war running. These people are looking at a balance sheet. These people are looking at a bottom line. These people are looking at making record corporate profits for their investors. In the meantime, we're looking at our family members. We're looking at each other as this community of people who have chosen to fight our illnesses with this herb. We're looking at our lives and our health. And I submit to you today that we make it clear to the people who are supposed to be representing us over here in the Alabama legislature that we hold the lives of our loved ones and our children more dear than we hold corporate profits.
Yeah!
Don't think that you are bugging someone or being impolite when you contact these guys over here and tell them what you need done for medical marijuana law. And if you try and they don't listen, it's time to elect somebody else. Get somebody else in there that actually represents your interests. These guys are kind of complacent. They're kind of smug sometimes, and they think they can do whatever they want, and you're going to keep electing them because that's the name you know, and it's been on that ballot every election for the past 19 years. Well, maybe it's time to get a different name on that ballot if this guy won't do the right thing. It's time to tell the Alabama legislature that the people of Alabama are tired of their equivocating, they're tired of their cowardice when it comes to this subject. The sky is not going to fall if we allow marijuana to be used as medicine in Alabama. There is nothing going to happen. The federal government is not going to come in and do anything. Look at all the states that have legalized both medically and recreationally, and the sky didn't fall. They're doing just fine. In fact, let's look closer at those states that have legalized marijuana on a recreational and medical level. Let's look at what happened, for instance, to opiate use in those states. Studies have come out within the past year that opiate use has dropped precipitously in states with access to medical marijuana. Along with that drop in opiate use has been a drop in opiate overdoses. So suddenly we're not talking about political points anymore. We're talking about human lives. How much value do you put on several hundred human lives that are still around that wouldn't be if it weren't for medical marijuana in those states? When those rates of overdose drop, that isn't numbers on a chart. That is people who get to be with our family tonight. That everyone who loves that person, they get to have that person in their family still. They're not burying someone today. That's because of marijuana. That's real talk, folks. That's real. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about people's lives. We're talking about people's families. This is important stuff. I would urge you to take it seriously as it deserves. Because when you impact people's lives in a way that makes them more present with their families, more aware of themselves and of the world around them, I think we're talking about a good thing. I think we're talking about something that's worth spending our time and effort on.